What's crack-a-lackin' royals? This is the 5th installment of Meaty Strawman. This is the journey toward freedom. Everyone, take it in and let that manifest in your mind, in your brain juices, so we can put it out to the macrocosm. Let's get it. So we're going to continue between the conversation of Poiter and our boy James Martin. So Poiter then tells James that agreeing to pay provided that evidence of a lawful debt can be produced stops him being taken to court because courts only adjudicate between parties who are in dispute. And as James has agreed to pay, there is no dispute. So the court would not accept any application for a hearing. If the swindle bank were foolish enough to try, James has only to send the court a copy of his letter agreeing to pay, and the case would be thrown out or dismissed immediately. And the swindle bank might well be penalised for wasting the court's time. The bank, well, should I say the swindle bank, is now in trouble, as it has been running a con game on James, and so can't produce the documents for which James has asked. The request by James was reasonable in every respect. However, a loan agreement is a contract, and so there has to be full disclosure of all the details, which there wasn't. Both sides have to put up something of equal worth, which didn't happen, and the contract has to be signed in wet ink by both parties, which the bank can't do. So the swindle bank has a real problem. The swindle bank will probably send a statement of what it wants James to believe is the outstanding amount. James should then return it with a polite note saying that a statement is not an invoice. So would they please provide a signed invoice as requested? They will also probably send a photocopy of his loan application form, at which point James should write back and point out politely that it does not constitute a contract, as it is only signed by one of the parties, himself. And he has asked for a copy of the contract signed by both parties. The swindle bank is likely to go silent at this point and stop corresponding with James. James should then write again, requesting that the necessary documents be sent to him within the next 14 or perhaps 28 days. And if that does not happen, then he will consider the debt to be fully discharged. The swindle bank will either remain silent or write back to say that the debt is fully discharged. If the swindle bank tries phoning, then just tell them politely that you only wish to deal with this matter in writing and hang up. If the bank remains silent for the stated period of time, then James should write back stating that due to the bank's failure to provide the necessary evidence of a lawful debt within the reasonable period of time provided, because 28 days is fairly lenient, that James now considers that the debt is fully discharged and asks the bank to confirm that in writing. The bank will normally write back confirming that the debt is fully discharged and that there is nothing owing. And if it does not do that, it will just stop asking for any further payments. Bam. The reasons for how and why this takes place takes a good deal of explaining, and many people find it difficult to understand. So it is covered in detail on the following pages here. Many people think that this process sounds like you're ripping off the bank, but this is definitely not the case. So, what is money? Originally, in England, the unit of money was called £1 sterling. That was because it was literally sterling silver weighing £1. As it was quite difficult to carry several pounds weight of currency around with you, it was arranged that the actual silver could be held in a bank and a promissory note, which was essentially a receipt for the deposit of each pound of silver on deposit, was issued. It was much easier to carry these banknotes around and to do business with them. If you wanted to, you could always take these notes to a bank and ask them to be cashed, and the bank would hand you the equivalent weight of sterling silver in exchange for the notes. Today, the currency in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, America is banknotes, which are certainly easier to carry around than metal coins. But there is one very important difference. These notes are issued by the private company called, you guessed it, the Federal Reserve Bank, which is as good a name for a company as any other name. However, if you were to take one of their banknotes to a branch of that company and ask for it to be cashed, all that they would do is give you another note with the same numbers of credit printed on it. Or alternatively, other notes with smaller numbers printed on them. This is because, unlike the original banknotes, there is nothing of any physical value backing up the banknotes of today. They are only materially worth the physical paper on which they are printed. It actually gets worse than that. What happens most commonly nowadays is that they do not even bother printing those pieces of paper. Now they just tap some numbers into a computer record, aka digital currency, crypto, stay away from that garbage, from one slave matrix straight into another. Or, if they are old-fashioned enough, they write the numbers into a ledger by hand. What do those numbers represent? Nothing at all. They have no actual value. In other words, just as much value as if you type them into your own computer. Quite meaningless. And yet, a bank or other financial institution will merrily lend you those numbers in return for years of your hard labor and work, plus interest charges. Now, isn't that really generous of them? And we're going to close chapter 5. Well, it's not chapter 5, but it is the 5th part of me reading to you the Meet Your Strawman piece of paper. Like I said, they deal with paper, so they're going to have to deal with this. Much love. Let's get it. Freedom.